I'd like to welcome everyone to this public town hall for the City Hall Public Space and Safety Project. So thank you all for being here tonight to talk about this important project. And I think this is a pretty small group, so maybe we'll start with some introductions. And as a reminder, we are recording for TV today. So I guess when we do introductions, we'll have to pass that mic around.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, I can do that. Thank you.
I'll start out. My name is James Mack. I'm the CIP project manager for this project, and I'll pass it maybe this way, and then through the crowd.
My name is Rick Campbell. I'm the Deputy Chief of Police.
Cindy Mester, Deputy City Manager. It's on, so just...
Wyatt Shields, City Manager.
Nick Ben, Falls Church News Press.
What are you supposed to do?
Huh? Falls Church News Press.
No, just say what's your name?
Oh, I'm Virginia Long, and I'm in the League of Women Voters at VPIS, and I'm just here as an interested citizen of Falls Church.
John, excuse me, John Lamoni. I'm just a citizen of Falls Church.
I'm Phil Duncan on City Council.
Letty Hardy, City Council.
Dave Tarter, Mayor.
Good job, Wyatt.
Dave Berkey, Registrar, City of Falls Church.
Tina Ehrman, taxpayer.
And after we do the presentation, we'll be opening up to questions and answers, so we'll
I'll actually, I might stand.
talk. Yep. Then we'll need to do the mic thing again, so appreciate the flexibility. And Wyatt, now you know what it's like to do budget town hall meetings and run around with the mic.
All right. All right. Already on?
Yep, you're good.
Okay. Okay. So tonight I want to kind of go over the project and what staff has done since we last had a town hall. I think it was last October. And since then, we've brought a construction manager at risk onto the project. This is essentially a contractor who has ties to the existing market, and so we've been able to get a lot of cost and constructability into the concept that we presented back in October. And so we'll discuss the changes to the project and the project design, and also give some of the background leading up to that. So just to give background to the project, the origin of this project has always been a public safety and security project. It started from a 2005 U.S. Marshals report, and then subsequent 2006 Virginia Sheriff's Association report. And so it's really always been to address the public safety and security in this building. So that really means getting accessible and secure wayfinding pathways, secure access and movement through the courts for sheriff, for police, and centralizing. We have about 10 or 11 entry points into this building, centralizing those entry points into a central access point, centralizing our service counters, meeting rooms, so people aren't wandering through the building, and after hours access and security for the public. And as ancillary to those improvements, we hope to be upgrading our ADA, building code, life safety compliance, and improving customer access to those city services as we're centralizing all these lobby areas, and achieving better building efficiency and sustainability, lowering our operating costs of this building. So just to go over the CIP, the funding background for this really quick, we have total of 15.95 available for our budget. We had about 16.95 approved, and we've already spent $1 million on critical renovations. That's our snow rails, asbestos removal, and various other projects within the City Hall. And so out of that 15.95 million, we've spent a certain number on fees for consultants, and then we have put aside 1.2 million for furnishings, fixtures, equipment, commissioning, relocation of staff during construction, and that leaves us with a budget of $13 million for the hard construction costs. And so to give a background of what's happened since our last update in October, We awarded a construction manager at risk contract to hit construction in December 2016. This is a CMAR. This CMAR process is something that's really been advanced in Virginia through the last probably decade as a method to deliver facility projects like this, complex facility projects. And essentially, this is a contractor who is able to give us constructability reviews and kind of cost review as we go through the project. So we presented him with the design that we had, that we presented back in October to the public. That cost came in at 19.5 million. So it came in 6.5 over the budget. And so since December to this point, we've really been working to refine the design to get this within the 13 million budget that we have. And so, and on top of that, we've also looked at stakeholder comments that we've been getting and trying to incorporate those into the project as well. And to talk a little bit about the stakeholder comments we've received, we've really been doing a public outreach for all this project, but we've had a lot of meetings in probably the mid 2016 range, probably starting in July through November, when we did collect a lot of comments, and those comments really spoke to concerns with the exterior architecture and aesthetics, ensuring we have security and safety, ensuring that accessibility and wayfinding is maintained through the building, and maximizing the efficient use of interior spaces, making sure that we're planning for city growth, and then also minimizing the phasing impacts, the construction impacts on services and staff and other events in the city, like farmers market and things like that. And then also sustainability was also a key issue. And so this is really a kind of top high-level view of the project. And so essentially what we had back in December, with the original plan, we had 3 additions to this existing building: a front addition, a rear addition, and a garage. And so what this new plan is essentially combining all those 3 additions into one singular addition in the back, which is a second floor addition and then a garage on the bottom. So that's really how we've been able to achieve this cost reduction or scope reduction. And with this reduction, we've been able to maintain the original project goals, the original security goals, and also been able to maintain the future needs of the city, the staff needs, the future growth needs, and other public use needs like meeting rooms and things of that nature. And so just a quick by the numbers, I'll go over this really quickly. This kind of just illustrates what I was talking about before. Before we had the renovations of this building, 2 additions totaling about 13,000 square feet, and a garage in the back about 44,000 square feet. We've combined all those into a single addition of addition on the top and a garage on the bottom. So you'll see that up here, which is 4,000 square feet for the addition and about 11,000 square feet for the garage. So we go from about 44 net new parking spaces to about 13 net new parking spaces. As you can see, there's a huge reduction in the garage, just the size of the garage, and that was a major, I guess, portion of the project we had to reduce to be within budget. So we really do have the current design. It meets the original project goals. We haven't been sacrificing any of our original safety, security priorities here. We maintained the original program. That essentially means the departmental space needs, the space needs within the different departments of the city, and then also maintaining our public meeting spaces, maintaining an open central entrance and central lobby area. We're maintaining this historic city hall frontage and aesthetic because we're no longer adding this addition in the front. We're maintaining these 2 public elevators, and we're minimizing the impacts to Cherry Hill Park. So just to reiterate, this newest design still meets the project goals. It still meets our current and projected space needs and is within budget. And so before I get to talk a little bit more about the updated design, this is the kind of the second round of stakeholder outreach, if you will, or third round maybe. This has been a long project. We went back to council to show this concept off in May, the 22nd, and then we submitted a site plan on the 30th. We had a public safety task force, which is consists of public and internal stakeholders to this building on the 5th. We brought this to the Architectural Advisory Board last night, and we're here tonight, and we'll continue to update the website too. So next steps, we'd like to have any comments today, if we can get them by the 14th, so that we can go to the Planning Commission. We're planning a work session, and also the City Council, we're planning a work session. So if we were able to get comments by then, that would be really ideal, to be able to bring those to those work sessions and bring your concerns to the Council and Planning Commission. And the reason behind a lot of this timeline is because we want to get to an October construction date. And the reason behind that really is to minimize our cost risk in winter. As winter weather sets in, then there's just a lot more cost exposure, and that puts our budget at risk. And then and we won't be able to deliver this project that we're showing here. And this is just a review of that timeline. Again, right now is the public process in June, and we're hoping to go into construction documents in July. Guaranteed maximum price is essentially negotiating with the contractor to get a bid price on the project. We'll go back to council for approval in September, and then beginning construction in October. Again, to minimize our risk in the winter, trying to do the construction during the fall. Okay. So this is the site plan that we submitted. I'm just gonna, well, I'll just talk through this a little bit pretty quickly. This you'll see here is the existing building, and then with this as the front. So what's happening now, we're adding a addition in the back, which is a one-story building addition, and then on the bottom is the parking structure. And the concept right now is to gut the existing chambers area, and that will become your front entrance area where you walk in. Let me see if I have a floor plan. Right. So this is a kind of showing from elevation view the rear, and let me see if I have a floor plan. So just to kind of orient everybody, this is the front of the building right here. This is the floor plan, and this is the rear. So this is the existing chambers right here, which has now been completely gutted. That becomes your central front entrance area. So you enter through the existing two front doors into the central lobby area, and then in the rear, we will be building a new chambers in the back. And that new chambers will also include the sheriff's department and the elevator for secure wayfinding through the building. So there will be an elevator back here that will go down to the holding level, and that's where the prisoner exchange and judge exchange, the judge can move securely through this through this elevator. And so how does this look from the front? Essentially, we're maintaining the existing front aesthetic of City Hall. There's no real change here, no major change. What we are doing is we're adding in the front here, an ADA ramp with a short wall in front to kind of block that from view. And then in the front, we'll have a small seating wall. The existing doorways will be maintained, except we'll have to update them for ADA width and for lead, so that it's kind of like an airlock system essentially. And otherwise, those two existing entrances are maintained. So this would be the existing chambers area right now. As you can see, kind of totally redone. You'll come in here, and then the existing stairwells and elevators here, those will be, the stairwells will be opened up into what we call monumental stairways, and then the elevator shafts will remain, of course, with new elevators in them. And so the idea here is, as you enter into the new lobby area, then it's very intuitive for people coming in that you can either look left or right, and then those are your city services there. And maybe I should point that out. Going back to the floor plan, part of this concept is that you come into this lobby area. To your left and right are these stairwell and elevator sections, and directly off of them, there will be these lobby areas. And those lobby areas are where the public who are accessing city services will be able to come, go up the stairs into a lobby, and your public counter is right there, versus what we have right now where you kind of find your way through the hallways. And then in addition to that, what we have in the front lobby area, and I'll flip back to the interior view in a minute, is you'll have the public meeting rooms right off the front entrance. So you'll come in, public meetings rooms right here. If you're accessing court, you'll come in, security vestibule up here. You'll do your security check, and then you'll be able to enter court. And then, let's see. And so this view here shows these two public meeting rooms off the front. And so that kind of gives you an idea of what we're envisioning for the lobby area.
And James, if I can note while you're on that one, this is a preliminary rendering, and so the finalization of bookshelves and walls and stuff is still early in the process, so this is to give you an idea of what the functional use of the space would be.
And so what does this mean? What does it look like in the back? And so this is the addition that's going to happen in the back, and this is our new chambers, our new sheriff offices, and the transport system that essentially is secure transport for the judges, the courts, and the police. In the back here, you have a secure garage where the police will, and sheriff and judge will be able to come in. That will connect to the Sally port, which connects to holding right there. And from holding, you'll be able to take prisoners up securely into court. The judge will also have secure parking, and they'll be able to go up securely into court. Everything's enclosed, nothing's like we have right now out in the open. The top of this will be able to be kind of a green roof terrace area. We kind of see that as being used as more of a kind of a public space. We are kind of working through how the security and the access would work for this top area. Right now, the only access for this would be through the existing building. So you would have to get either, there would have to be some kind of operational, there would have to be some kind of, something set up so that you would maintain the security of the courtroom here while allowing the public to use this. So this could be something like weekends or non-court day use. And there have been a few trees deleted off this so that you can see the entire back. I think the other thought for this was to also have trees kind of ringing this garage to kind of soften that view shed. And so talking about this is a little bit of the stuff that we presented to the AAB yesterday, but just to talk a little bit about the materials selection for the rear, and what we've been thinking about is that these are kind of our existing materials that we have up there. We have our existing brick, our existing slate roof, and what are the materials that we're bringing into this new addition in the back is we're looking at things like this CMU wall, a green wall, and what this product is a zinc diamond shingles, which you're seeing on the wall here. and this would be our CMU wall. So we're looking at something that really maybe complements the existing building, but doesn't copy or mimic the existing building. And these are just a few kind of more real-world examples and different ways that that texture on the rear chambers could be visualized or installed. Right now, we are going for this kind of more horizontal look that you see here. We feel that matches the brick horizontal. And then kind of these other elements that we're looking at are the framing for the entry doors. We do have to update the doors for ADA clearances and things like that. So what do we do when we're updating those frames? We're looking at something like this, something very subtle that will match the existing brick there. At this point, I think I'm done, and I'd like to open it up for questions, or if, I don't know if Rick or Cindy have anything to add.
The new design, where it's been scaled back some, while we do lose some of the parking spaces in the back, it does retain all the security issues that were brought up and addressed by the Marshal Service and the other studies that have been done in the past that raised the security concerns to begin with. So while the project has been scaled back, as I say, it does still retain all of the same security benefits that we were looking for in the beginning of the project, and clearly assist with wayfinding. As far as wayfinding is concerned, currently, with all the entrances to the building here, our records clerk ends up being a tour guide. For part of her time during the day, people will come in trying to find an office. She'll try and explain how to get to the office. After seeing a confused look on somebody's face, she'll then offer to get up and escort them to where they're trying to get. So this clearly makes a lot more sense, and again, it retains the wayfinding positives that came out with the initial design. And I
Either be formal, have you come up to the podium, but I'm thinking I'll try to bring the mic around to people and just let you comment and question. As a reminder for those who have come in after we started, and we're thrilled to have you all here, please sign in. You have a choice of checkbox if you would like to be on our email list for updates. And also, we are recording this presentation tonight so we can replay it and have it available to the public. So we do need you to use the microphone.
Will the capacity of the council chambers be the same as far as the number of people?
Yeah, I think we're trying to maintain the existing council chamber size. Yeah,
Okay, but it's going to be directed the other way.
that's correct, yeah.
That'll change politics in Falls Church tremendously. So this is going to be only two entrances, public entrances into the building then?
Yeah, it's two entrances that really come into one central lobby area.
How about for the police, getting into the police department, public access to the police department?
That maintains the
Same
same.
thing?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it is going to be open after hours?
Yeah, so I think the idea here, going back to the site plan, is you would come in this central entry level. Oh, right, sorry.
Either that or grab the other one and hold it.
So the idea here is that you would come in into the central entry level, and then you use the half a level downstairs. For police, it's a full level down, but then you'd be able to access the police lobby right there.
All hours?
All hours, right. The rest of the, right, and the change is that the existing entrance here is closed. Yeah.
Just one final question. What does CMAR stand for?
Construction manager at risk, and it's a It's a performance Virginia procurement tool that one can use. And what happens is you bring the construction manager on up front at this design stage, so they're really involved. And the guaranteed maximum price reference that James was referring to is a negotiated piece. And the risk part is once they've agreed to that price and that contract's been awarded, they bear the risk for any overruns or anything they didn't project. So the only change orders then are ones initiated by the building owner because of unexpected things or we changed the design. I do want to follow up a little bit on the one point you asked in terms of coming down to the police. There would be a lobby in the dispatch, and so that's the after hours. We're working on the procedural piece. There might still be a buzzer here that the police would then see and let you in so that it has a little bit of security control. But one of the things with this building design, James talked about lobbies at this counter and some meeting rooms. But you can see we have a lot of doors that then can secure the suites off. And so after hours, you control where the public goes, which is safer for the public, but also safer for anybody else in the building after hours. Yes, sir.
Are there going to be solar panels or any other kind of energy better for the environment things in this building?
Sure. Yeah, so we are doing LEED Silver as council policy is concerned. So we will have more efficient HVAC systems, more efficient lighting. As far as solar panels, that's just not in our budget right now. But I think overall the operational costs of this building will drop. I mean, just because of the updated equipment that we are going to put into the building.
We have gotten some additional estimates through the Environmental Service Council, Sustainability Council, new name, so that they could see what we looked at with some vendors, what we could do for solar panels. The back is not where the sun is, so it's a little harder to do that, but they have come up with some options if we can pursue a grant or separate project. We wouldn't preclude that, but we'll be sustainable in many ways, but no solar panels initially. Great question. Yes, let me go to John.
Excuse me, I have a problem with my voice right now. If I understood correctly, in October, the town hall meeting had for the original project had an estimate of about $13 million, and then in 3 months or 4 months it went up by about 50%. Could you explain why that happened and when the city council found out about that change in the cost?
Yeah, so, yeah, sure, I'll start. So I think that original project that we showed was before we had brought this construction manager at risk on board. And so that was, the construction manager at risk, I think, really brings to the table their construction, essentially construction firm. So they can give some confidence in their answer on, well, how much will this actually cost to build? So when they really started looking into that project and really digging into it, that's when they found that this is going to cost you $19.5 million. And so, I don't know if you
So that kind of reinforces the benefit of the CMAR process instead of a traditional design bid build. So what we had in December was a budget of $13 million and an architectural schematic design to meet the program needs. And if we had put that out for a traditional bid, we would have found out in several months from now we were over budget. And so we were able to stop, go back and do a paradigm shift and rebid and use the CMAR contractor's own actual real world current subs, and they sent out for estimates. So it's a solid estimate at this point of design level, and that's how we had to correct for the gap. And so the budget had always been at that 13 million, but when we actually went out to bid, and part of the challenge has been the initial money for this project that's approved FY12, FY13, 14, and then 16. And the 16 was January of 2015 when we did the estimate, 16. So the 15 actually. So it's just the cost of money, and the escalation has caused us some problems, and the construction market's a little hotter now than when it had originally been planned. So all of that combined resulted in an over budget and then a redesign.
Thanks, Cindy. I guess I want to start off with, as a developer in the city and one who interacts with city staff all the time, I find that the demands that city staff makes on new development projects are, I don't want to say stringent, but We want, we might accept LEED silver, but we want a lot more than that, and we want solar panels, and we want stormwater management, and we want parking. I don't understand, honestly, how the city can make those kinds of requirements, but then not have them themselves. So that's one point. The second point I want to make is it's been, as I understand it, roughly 60 years since this building has been built or rehabbed in any serious way. It seems to me that we need to have, as we do with these other very large projects that we're grappling with, we have to have not a 10 or 20 year investment horizon, but rather a 40 or 50 or 60 year time horizon. To try to save $6 million, I think is preposterous. I think that we need to do this properly. We need to have the parking that was taken off. We need to have the solar panels. We need to do this properly because we're going to be living with it. Not me, but a lot of people around here, son, are going to be living with this for 50 or 60 years. So I would like to suggest that council really take a step back and see if there isn't some possibility of allocating that $6 million, which in the scheme of what we're looking at is not a really big deal. But I think having a proper city hall with the kinds of, I won't even call them amenities, the kinds of requirements that I think should be met ought to be seriously considered.
Thank you for comments. Comments and questions are all welcome, and the reason for tonight.
James, can you go back to the slide with the table showing the old plan numbers and the new plan? Thank you. Yep. There you go.
There.
Okay. My name is Gary Laporta. I'm a city employee and a member of the Employee Advisory Committee. We were presented this plan and we discussed it pretty thoroughly on Tuesday. And I'm not going to get into the litany of the problems that we have in this building because we'd be here quite a while. But just let me mention a few things about mold or elevators not working properly, fire alarms going off when they shouldn't be going off, people wandering the hallways without any restriction, and wayfinding. But there's plenty more. As you can see by this change, the additions, we've lost over 8,000 square feet of what we were hoping to be future office spaces, other amenity spaces. You can see also that the parking, from 88 to 33, and the 13 net new are really just shuffling cars from one place to another in reality. And when you get to if you come here on a court morning around 9 o'clock, from 9 to noon or so, it's a bear to park here. That being said, while the current plan does not meet all of our expectations of the original plan, the scaled-down project is almost necessary for improving both the physical and environmental safety for citizens and the employees that serve them. We, the Advisory Council, also feel that not making the secure parking deck strong enough to house future office requirements is short-sighted. So in other words, that grassy area on top of the garage cannot support any real weight because the walls and the foundation of the garage are not strong enough. I think that really limits, that's a kind of the natural place to expand in the future, and the fact that it's not strong enough to support that means if we do expand back there, we got to knock down what's there and start over. And I think that's kind of short-sighted. I think, if I'm not incorrect, the estimate to make it sturdy enough is an extra $1 million, something in that nature.
Yeah, that's within. Yeah,
I've heard that. I've heard that
ballpark.
number, and I think, okay, so we cut back $6 million, but that leaves us no future growth potential. Thank you.
Since we're talking about City Hall business and people who work for the city, I'm Dave Berkey. I am the registrar for the City of Falls Church and director of elections. I'm here on behalf of the electoral board, who, when I sat down with you all with the site plan and seeing as I think we are currently in what my future office would become, although a little smaller than this actual room. We're basically in the basement, for lack of a better word, whereas my office currently is essentially right inside the front door. So the electoral board had some concerns about access to, specifically as a stakeholder, absentee voting and registration for the public. But that's a concern I can share with you later. More for everybody here, I would like to see where all the offices are. Can you point out where each office is moving? Like, where my current office is, who's going there? Just curious if that can be shown.
Sure. I don't have those plans on this presentation, but maybe I can give a better overall of where we're planning for everyone to move in general. So if you come into the entry lobby, and then up on the west wing, the top will be Commissioner of Revenue and Treasurer and HR. On the bottom of the west wing becomes your court services, your Health and Human Services, and clerk of the court. So the idea behind that placement was that you're coming out of court into that security vestibule, and right down half a level of stairs, you're able to access the court services there. And then on the other side, on the east wing, third floor, that's your city manager's suite, what is known as city manager's office, office communications, city attorney, and finances up there, and the city clerk. And then on the east wing, first floor is Department of Development Services and Department of Public Works. Then you've got actually Economic Development Office on the entry level area, and then on the what's now Dogwood level or G level, we would have voter registrar, and actually IT would be down in G2, which is you were talking about the basement, so that's like the basement to the basement is down there. Yeah. And then, right, of course, police stays where they are right now in their existing space, which is the basement of East Wing, the 2 floors of basement.
Is this presentation and those plans, are they online so we can, so citizens and the board can go take a look at them?
Yeah, I think they're still really in development right now, because we did do a big department director charrette, as you're aware, over the last 2 weeks to kind of get with all the department heads, talk through their needs. So we are right now in the middle of kind of a major redesign to accommodate a lot of those comments that we got. So I think any plans we put up right now, they're already not reflective of what's actually going to be built.
So the AAB's presentation from yesterday's up, this one will go up. So all the presentations are there, but as James said, the actual floor plans for where the offices are, the storage room, the copier, all of those are still in flux from being the redesign from the 16 hours we spent with each office. And they'll be available in a couple weeks, but the architects are redesigning it and making sure all the building codes and stuff are complete. We don't want to put them up and they not be accurate in the 2 days we change them. But each department will also get a reach back and see them again as we finalize.
Thank you.
Please tell me that the jiggity jogs at both sides are going to be gone. It sounds like the half floors are going to stay.
Yeah, that's correct.
They're
the half
staying?
Yeah.
We're spending $13 million and we're still going to have those silly things?
Yeah, I think. So,
James, if you could go back to the center.
Entry level.
Yeah. So it is true, because this building is a split foyer and we're working with the existing building, you'll still have the split foyer effect. So this level here would be 2. the chambers level that becomes the lobby area. And then you go up half a flight and down a half a flight, elevator or stairs. What's majorly different is that you'll have a direct line. So now if you can do the
Floor plan?
the floor plan one.
Yeah.
So here, yeah, if you could point to the direct, so now you have a direct alignment to it
Right.
and visibility. And so it's a much better wayfinding and a direct axis alignment, but you do still have the half up, half down, and only the meeting room space and economic development office on that floor.
And maybe, Tina, if I could address that a little more. I think right now, one of the major issues with wayfinding is that people don't go through council chambers. So to get from one side to the other, you've got to go underneath council chambers, and this is your wayfinding between the two wings. And I think that is part of what leads to a lot of the confusion. So our hope is that, well, we are limited by budget, so we kind of do have to keep the existing building footprint, that, you know, you would be coming in now 2 chambers, and that would eliminate a lot of this. Well, you got to go all the way down, then cut across, and then go all the way up and find your way up.
You get to either end, and at the end,
It's only a half up or half down.
half up or a half down.
That's correct.
Instead of having to follow underneath each other.
Yeah.
Right, that's correct.
And that staircase will be open, it won't be closed as it is right now.
Right.
Be able to see.
So you'll be able to see which way you're going.
Yeah, so see how this is much more open, and we're also trying to use, with the architect's help, some different wayfinding means. So each floor will actually be a different color. So when you're standing, you'll see blue, and then you'll see green, or you'll see yellow, or whatever. And so it helps with the intuitive. The other thing that James talked about is this is now a direct connector between the wings, but we also will still have this corridor. So instead of one connection between the wings, we'll actually have 2. And so that'll make it much more efficient. So we're keeping the half floor, but it's not or a lot of the staff actually,
Go around, and that.
you just straight back and forth.
Difference,
Yeah.
right.
Big difference. And a lot of our staff, if you ask them when they give directions, they will escort, or they'll say, it's much easier just to go outside and walk around, because you can't tell citizens how to do it if they don't know the building.
That remains the same regardless of the old or new version of the design, right? A couple of questions about deadlines. First of all, has the courts given a deadline for when we have to be compliant with their demands for court facilities? The second one is, how long does the cost hold? That was the solid cost that you were given, does that last a year, 6 months?
2 good questions. The first one is the courts have not given a drop dead date yet, because we've been working with the judge and the sheriff, and I saw the deputy, there he is, Chief Deputy Sheriff, collaboratively. And so the judges have said, and Judge McHugh in particular has indicated that as long as we're making progress, then he's working with us. But he's identified that there's issues that need to be resolved, and would revisit any future actions if things stop or change versus progressing with the plan. And we have rebriefed the judge on this current plan. The price that we have right now is a cost estimate based on development designs. And so the next stage is construction design documents. So then we'll get really nitty-gritty into all the mechanical and the plumbing and lights. And then we have the guaranteed maximum price that James was referring to. So between this $13 million and that dollar amount, we'll negotiate the final price. That will be the binding one for the 2-year period of the construction. But they have said that this is within the 13 million framework, and we have a little contingency in there to add. So it's a fairly reliable number, but it is not a guaranteed one till we get to the GMP.
One little follow-up in there, and that is, can this be designed in such a way that it's phase 1 of a 2-phase expansion of the city hall, where the second phase gives you everything you don't have now?
In terms of the wayfinding and the public safety and separating courts police, the public, and staff for all those functions. You need to do it all so it flows and you correct it. The one thing that could be done as an additional phase with additional funding, because it's not within this current budget, following up on Gary Laporta's comment, the rear garage structure is designed currently to support a terrace and pedestrian use up above. If you wanted to expand it in the future for additional square footage or additional parking, you would need to change the construction and the foundation now, so we don't have to tear it down and rebuild it. The $1 million estimate that we had was the cost to build it so you could put additional parking on now, make a stronger foundation, and the ramping to get up there, because the current design doesn't have any ramping or anything to get up there. So to support office or parking in the future, you need to change the construction material and the foundations.
Yeah, I guess clarify on that is right now we have a steel structure, and so we would have to change that to a concrete structure, and so that adds a lot to the cost.
And could a ramp go on that, so you could park up on that terrace area instead of just having it for picnics?
Yeah, that's part of that. Right now, what we have is a steel structure, so we can't park up on there. But if we did convert to a concrete structure with more funds, that you would be able to park on there.
Able to do that?
That's the magnitude that we're looking at. We haven't really dived into the details of how much that would cost, but it's about that much.
So your original proposal contemplated a fairly significant addition in the back that, as I recall, was going to be where the staff relocated to while you were doing the full gut renovations of the east and west wings. And we're still doing the full gut renovations of the east and west wings, right? Your phasing budget is going to be able to handle the movement of current staff into some place while east and west are being redone?
Well, the additional space would have provided some surge swing space, but wouldn't have accommodated it all. And we haven't finalized the relocation swing space plan, but conceptually, now we're only doing one construction in the back, so you can build that and not have interruptions on front and back, which impact both wings. That can be storage, some surge space. The chambers can be used as office space until we fully move chambers. We will probably be looking at some of our public works engineering staff moving down to the property yard and reusing some of the roll call workspace there. And then we'll have to bring some trailers on site and rotate staff out. Where staff move is pretty critical to that. So part of the adjacency and the logical permanent flow is also, we have the benefit of the people that are on the east wing now are going to be on the west wing at the end. So you can renovate the west wing, move people over, then do the next. Now that's at a macro high level sort of phasing plan. Because in the meantime, we got to keep police functioning. And as the judge knows, and we've talked about, there'll be a period of time where, of course, we'll probably not be able to meet while we're building right behind the current chambers. It's much reduced time period, but it will be challenging, and we haven't worked out all the details. But as you saw in the cost budget that James had up there, we have FF&E, furnitures, fixtures, and equipment, commissioning for lead certification, and relocation in that 1.2 million. And we had already anticipated needing some trailers and the cost to move people, IT reconfiguration when people are off site and so forth.
So, and the original proposal had a 20-year shelf life, and if we're doing a addition of only 4,000 as opposed to the larger number, is it really the case that what we'll end up with is going to be able to meet the growth needs of the city in terms of extra staff and storage of materials and so forth for as long a period of time as 20 years?
Let me take the first stab, and then James can add on. some of the advantages that we're still keeping is that in that renovation space, we're picking up about 4,000 square feet because we have a lot of corridors right now that cannot be used because this building's not fully sprinklered. So we still keep that additional 4,000 square feet. In changing to use the chambers as our main corridor, we've actually improved some of the circulation path and have been able to eliminate some corridors and get the flow better. We're doing a crosswalk now at the request of council, which we'll have at the June 19th work session, that shows in the Dewberry Report 4, our final study there, we had projected staff for the 20-year count, and that number is matching the staff number that we have in this plan. What the in between Studio 27 one with the additional floor plate, you built additional staff above what we had projected for the 20-year, and you had a little more storage. So what we're doing in the current plans, which is also why they're not totally available to Dave Berkey's question yet, is in redoing staff offices, we've reconfigured and are working to find more storage space, and so that we can ensure that we can cover the 20-year period. So we are looking at a 20-year build out. We are designing this to be new HVAC with more flexible ways the main lines are run, so we can adapt in the future. We're doing a lot more systems furniture and not hard walls that then you change organizations, structures, reporting, and you've got outdated walls. And that will help us do the 20 years. And then the building systems themselves are looking to the 50 years for the mechanicals and all. So we are building for a longer term, but right now is the best we can estimate for staff needs for the city that grows. We go more electronic, we telework more. We're projecting for a 20-year period.
What about public meeting space? We're woefully short. I've kind of gotten used to having meetings in people's offices rather than conference rooms, so we cram 6 people. You know, it's really bad. I have another question.
Actually, with the meeting room space, and we'll have that on the crosswalk also, we are actually picking up meeting spaces. So besides getting them in the good location, we're actually picking up some meeting room space. I think as a official public conference room kind of areas is one more, but then the designs on each floors are much more flexible and conducive to meetings. So for example, on this floor, you have the quote current dogwood on the main level. It's going to be designed to hold at least 60 people and be square and not these funky corners. But it's also dividable. So when it doesn't need to be the big meeting room, you could have 2 meeting rooms for the Housing Commission and the Tree Commission, CACT. Also, we're going to design chambers, which we didn't really get into a lot of details. There's going to be only 2 levels now versus the 3. And so the center conference table, which we have now, will be there again. And it can be a meeting room when the large meeting room is not happening. It just can be a smaller meeting room. And then off of each of the lobby areas on each floor, we are targeting, and the one on the left doesn't have the right design yet, which is always why it's scary to put out floor plans before we finalize them after we just got some input. We're planning to have in-suite, quote-unquote, conference rooms. So when a developer comes in to meet with DDS, for example, there's a conference room. We're also planning for a lot of the offices that have people bring in plans to have space at the counter or a little room next to it that you could go off with an applicant who's filing a permit with a set of plans to look, so you're not all crowded at the counter. So we're trying to accommodate much more that public engagement interaction in the course of doing business. And we still will have a meeting room on this floor. Sort of half of this, but square.
Size, yeah.
So then we'll pick up another one that we don't have now. Anything else to add on the meeting rooms?
Yeah, I think the general concept is, you know, the way that we've built some of these in-suite meeting rooms right now, they'll be located very close to those stairway and elevators. So, and kind of Cindy touched on that before, you know, so then after hours, you could be able to restrict these staff areas, but public could then just still access these meeting rooms. So that really, in effect, allows a lot of these meeting rooms that are kind of, well, right now are tucked back into staff areas to be open during non-staff use hours.
And a lot of those, as you all know, in this room have staff liaisons supporting the boards and commissions, but it'll still be more central in wayfinding. Did you say you had another?
I did. It's not really a question. I really want to make a point to support another great support from my earlier point, which is I think we should go back to the old design and find the money. I'm in City Hall probably a lot more than most members of the public because of my business. Over the years, I've seen people, we have a pretty good staff here. I mean, these are pretty highly educated, pretty motivated folks. I see them in closets. I see them in hallways. I see senior staff people sharing a space with 2 other people. It doesn't seem to me to be the right way to do things. The public in general, I think, expects a great deal from the folks who are working in City Hall. And if we're going to have those expectations, I think we have to have more respect for their privacy, for their ability to get their work done. And I don't think this new plan will do that. So again, I would simply say I'd love to see council go back and consider a reversion to the old plan.
Well, my question is currently we're basically treading on the pleasure of the judge who basically gave us a court order to up the safety and so forth of this building. If he decides we're not moving fast enough or says we can no longer hold general district court in the city, in this facility, what are our plan B? And I may be incorrect, but I understand that according to state code, a city cannot be a city if it doesn't hold general district court. And I know there's a couple options, but I think they're kind of pricey. So if we push the judge, I think, too long, or he retires and we get another judge, what happens?
And I would say it's not just this one judge. He's been assigned as our liaison, but it's the whole judicial court that has been monitoring it, and the chief judge would have the final say. There is judicial proceedings that if this project isn't proceeding, that they can file through the circuit court system for contempt of court, and there's a judicial process for that. He has indicated in the past that that is something they would seriously consider if this project doesn't keep going forward. You are correct, the state code does require the general district court be held here. That is a requirement currently under state code to be a city. We do also have juvenile domestic relations court here. To change that, it would require state code change. Also, your sheriff function within your court system is mandated under the state code, and to change that, that takes both state code change and a voter referendum. So complex issues. To have court in another locality will switch the cost from capital costs to operating costs, because you're going to have to shift. The court services are still going to function, and we're in the Arlington district right now, the 17th district. So if they had enough courtrooms now and they could handle additional docket, it would come with the price of paying for that. And then you would have to figure out 1 or 2 sheriff's departments and how those costs shift. And then any of our police officers that have to be witnesses and reporting on those cases would then be sitting in Arlington waiting for the docket to come up. So we would lose the access of our police officers here or be paying overtime. So there's a fair amount of operating costs that would need to be considered. All that said, whether or not we have court in this building or not does not change the public safety issues of this building. for ensuring good police safety, public safety for the after-hour meetings, and the in a council meeting, you can have as many angry people as you do in a juvenile domestic family issue. So public safety is still an issue in this building. Wayfinding is still an issue. ADA noncompliance, no sprinklers, asbestos, et cetera, and mold, I would say still need to be addressed. So it takes one factor off the discussion 3 to 4 years out to take it off because of code changes. But there's still a lot of issues that staff recommends needs to be addressed in the physical structure of this building.
The bottom line is, we got to do this. We got to do something to meet the safety requirements of the job.
That is our current situation. And I'll look at the sheriff and make sure I've reported everything accurately. Do you all have anything to add?
No, that's pretty much it. I mean, they can't unreasonably not approve what we're doing here, so there's that caveat to their authority. And also we can appeal any contempt citation that they issue, but you really don't want to go down that road with a judge, especially taking on the entire judicial district. So, but this problem's been in existence for a long time, and as the major pointed out, we have a lot of studies showing just how woefully inadequate our security is here. And frankly, if I was a judge and having to walk in an open parking lot, potentially past people I've sentenced, I wouldn't want to do that either. Because if you go to any other courthouse in Virginia, even down in the western areas and southern areas, even those court systems have accommodated in small rural areas these safety provisions that we don't have here in a major metropolitan area. So, but again, you got to always keep the judge happy. Okay.
And it is a liability with our safety issue, and so I think, for the good of the city, we also need to look at the overall liability separate from the court issues.
Hi, thanks. I'm Andrea Comont, and I serve on the CACT. I'm the chair. And I'm sorry if I missed this at the beginning, but I was wondering if you could explain how public parking and traffic flows around the building are going to be impacted.
I'll let James do traffic flow and parking flows around the site. We'll go back to the site plan.
If I can, sure.
Make it easier while you stand up.
Yeah.
We didn't get to that level of detail, so we didn't miss.
Right. So right now, well, this is our site plan right now, and so part of the impact of meeting this budget was that we really had to reduce the site work down to a bare minimum, and so I think in terms of parking for the rest of the site, outside of this very basic building footprint, we're not touching any of that. What will change, though, is that this existing drive aisle that comes out, I guess, this way is now going to be going in this way. And we will have to bump out this drive aisle here to make room for the corner of the garage right here. So this drive aisle in the back will be rebuilt. Other than that, that really lines up to the drive aisle back here, so it's not really like we're bumping out into that existing green space right now. It just doesn't go out that far. And so that's the really only major change. And then, of course, we'll have the secure parking in the back, and so that will have to be redone a little bit to accommodate that. And then I think on top of that, we have a few kind of police or sheriff reserve parking around the campus, so that would all move now into the garage area. And so that would free up quite a few spots around just in the general campus.
And one of the things we're looking at is that if this is now the new central front entrance and you don't have to have public going in and out, this becomes public parking, and then our city vehicles and the staff will go to the back. The handicap parking will move to the center because it's now with the ramp, which is much better than here, and the only accessible route is there. So we will be doing that. Now, we have looked as a sort of a separate project and working with our development services and public works directors, whether we can do any restriping and improving of the rear. to pick up additional space without a large, big project. We're looking at that. So we are trying to improve that. And then one of the things we're also doing, since we know that we got parking for the police, the sheriff, and the judge in that secure area, and not only 13 net new, we're also looking at what can we do to change the mind shift and the mode share, which is the long-term goal in the mobility for all modes for the comp plan. So the point of doing, for us, what we ask the developers doing, we're looking at what TDM opportunities can we do. We are proposing in the draft plan that will be coming out to the community for input to have a bike share location on this campus or pretty near to this campus so we can encourage biking versus cars. Can we carpool more with our fleet vehicles? Can we send inspectors out on a bike? I don't know, but we're looking at those items too. Yes.
I wasn't here, but am I correct that the community center and the parks will not be changed at all?
You are correct. I'll say that besides my nod so it comes on the recording for TV.
I have one follow-up. I'm told that I should ask about the library parking.
So if that didn't get on the mic, the question was to ask about the library parking. So obviously this plan does not build any capacity in for the library. One of the things that we're working on internally is working with our neighbors around. We have a couple commercial properties when we did an analysis of the parking that are under parked in terms of their utilization needs. So can we get a shared parking agreement with them to have some public access parking? The office building at 313 Park Avenue is one logical one that we might talk to. They're right adjacent to the library. And then 200 Little Falls, which is really close at the intersection, is the medical building. They receive a lot of visitors already on court days and farmers market days. So what can we do to make it more official and efficient? And so that's one of the long-term plans in terms of sort of the more TDM, bigger picture issue instead of just building surface parking. The redesign of the rear parking, which is outside of the site plan for this project and outside of this project's budget, we think might be able to get 15 to 20 additional spaces just with restriping and making some curb parking official parking. Then to do a more intense surface parking redo, which the task force talked about, as Mr. Duncan knows, that we would need to get a cost estimate, which we're working on because the task force would like that reported to council. You know, could we take out a lot of the curb cuts and those little islands and do more of a traditional grid pattern and pick up some parking that's surface parking versus structured parking? Yes, sir.
Are there going to be more bike racks in this design than there are currently?
Definitely one bike share, and do you remember what bike racks Studio 27's put in?
Yeah, I think, well, I'm not sure if we're in that level of detail, but we are definitely looking at doing bike share, and then also additional bike racks. I don't know if there's employee bike racks at bike storage, but yeah, so I don't know about that.
We do have bike storage for the police because we do have police bikes, and that would be in the structured parking. So the one thing we didn't really highlight, that secured parking area is more than just parking. It has the bike storage, it has the kennels for our canines for the police and sheriff. It has
Property and temporary evidence storage for both police and the animal control function.
and then it has some of that inmate processing information where you need drug testing and fingerprinting and that kind of stuff associated with the Sally Port. So we will have bikes for police. One of the plans we have now that's in the latest being refined is we've identified two really important things that help with federal law compliance and LEED. One would be a nursing room, which we don't have anywhere in this building, and we often have problems, speaking of putting staff in closets when they need to use that. And then a shower, so we could have more biking of employees to work and then allow them to be clean to do the public service. Great questions and comments. Thank you all very much for your time and attention in coming this evening, and we'll be summarizing this and providing the information back to council. June 19th is the next council work session on this subject, as well as June 19th is the Planning Commission's work session on this item. And then, since I have a captive audience, I will just remind everybody this Saturday, 9 to 12 at Mary Ellen Henderson will be a community discussion on area planning for the joint campus, high school and middle school projects. And right before and after that, on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, you can enjoy the Blues Festival sponsored by the city and Tinner Hill Heritage Foundation. And if you're not in a meeting. Well, the music starts at 1 and the other meeting goes till 12. And I think there's actually a couple other things happening in the city, but I probably can't remember them all.
When does the festival start on Saturday?
1 o'clock, 1 to 8 is the festival. And you're thinking about your absentee ballot voting and parking.
Yeah.
Yep. At the farmers market's 9 to 12, and then it goes right into the Blues Festival.
Well, all right.
Chris Madison is, yeah, Chris Madison is your staff lead for working on that special event. Thank you all very much. Appreciate the time and attention. Good comments and questions.